Kick things off with the latest on the Steelers, where the flu is going around the locker room. So tight end Ladarius Green missed Thursday's practice with an illness, and Darius Hayward-Bay was one of 4 players to sit out of Thursday's session. Word is that up to 15 people in the Steelers facility have suffered a setback this week. Here's Mike Tomlin on their issues.
You know, we're not making excuses. There won't be. We'll be there. We'll be ready to play. This is just part of normal things that happen over the course of a season.
Stephen A., how do you see the flu potentially impacting the game on Sunday?
Well, it obviously could potentially impact because, I mean, let's put this in perspective. We sit on our behinds and pontificate about the world of sports every day, and we barely could work a couple of weeks back, particularly me when we were in Tampa. I was an absolute mess with that flu bug that hit me hard, and I'm not playing football, so we can only imagine the kind of effect it could have on elite athletes going up against elite athletes in terms of what's going to be required from them in terms of your energy, your conditioning, whether or not you're going to be gassed. You got to pay attention to time of possession. You got to pay attention to how much time you're going to spend on the field. You got to pay attention to a whole plethora of things. And plus, your brain, you've got to be sharp. And if you're fatigued and gassed because you're just not feeling well, it can certainly have a profound impact. And we recognize that. But still in all, I'm not going to use that as an excuse, just like Mike Tomlin's not going to use it as an excuse. A Super Bowl berth is on the line. Somehow, some way, you've got to suck it up, Max, whether it's electrolyte via Gatorade or, or whatever it is, whatever the hell you got to do. Figure it out. Yeah. Because nobody's going to want to hear that you had the flu and that's why you're not playing in the Super Bowl. It's going to come down to you against them. You're going to have to figure out a way to handle it. I applaud Mike Tomlin for taking the position that he's taken because nobody could take another position. The Super Bowl berth is on the line. You've got to find a way to handle your business if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. It will have an impact in my estimation, but it can't be but so much. At the end of the day, you've got to find a way.
Flu is going to have an impact on this game. In fact, I think it decides the outcome ultimately. You mentioned drink your electrolytes or whatever. I don't care how much Brawndo, the thirst mutilator, you drink. It's an idiocracy reference. Apparently, we're living in the idiocracy starting today. The point is that no matter how much you drink, you still got the flu. And I am aware, Stephen A., that the Baltimore Ravens, for example, won the Super Bowl on the way, beating the Patriots, who quarantined themselves that year, 2012, so they wouldn't get the flu, while the Ravens suffered with it. And the Ravens, though they had the defensive reputation, if you look that year, were kind of like a Steelers-level defense. Of course, they had fiery Hall of Famers, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and these guys, and the Steelers don't have that on defense. But still, the Ravens were not a defensive juggernaut that year, the way they were during the first Super Bowl run. And yet they won the game, in spite of the fact they had the flu. So I know that in the NFL, they have these kind of, you mentioned electrolytes, they probably some kind of elixir given to them by space aliens decades ago when they came down and realized that the NFL is actually the dominant force on Earth. Here, take this, because somehow they're able to take stuff that gets them on the field. When we saw the condition you were in and a lot of the staff was in, as you mentioned a week or two ago, you could barely stand up, let alone play football. That's a tall order, but I'm willing to accept that they will pump themselves full of whatever and have enough motivation to get on the field. They will be compromised first. Secondly, the Patriots had more time to prepare, like a day and a half more. Tomlin, we heard that in the Facebook post from Antonio Brown, was upset about that. And Belichick with time to prepare is practically unbeatable, right? He's the best coach. He has more time to prepare. He has the better team, at least if you look at the record this season. On top of all that, the only reason we know he's upset about the extra time to prepare is because of the Antonio Brown Facebook thing in the first place. So the better team I was going to pick against, I just had a feeling about the Steelers. But given all I just said and now the flu, I got to flip my pick, Stephen A.
Okay, well, elaborate on that. You picking the Patriots? Is that what you're saying?
I am. I think that this was a close enough and tough enough game that with even when the Antonio Brown stuff came out, I was like, uh-oh. That's any little disturbance in the force here could really negatively affect the inferior team, the Steelers, who I just think have just enough with Le'Veon Bell to maybe upset the apple cart. But now you're going to add in the fact that they're in a weakened physical condition and that the Patriots are not. And the Patriots are playing at home and they've just been better. Very tough to pick against them at this point. I think the flu I brought up the example of the Ravens, who the Patriots lost to in the similar circumstances a couple of years ago, 4 years ago already. I think this is a deciding factor for this game, Stephen A.
Well, I'm rolling with the Steelers. I'm not jumping ship on it. I thought about it long and hard. I was very concerned, particularly in the aftermath of the Antonio Brown video coming out, the kind of distraction it could ultimately cause, giving the New England Patriots bulletin board material, et cetera, et cetera. But the way I handicap this game is very, very simple. I'm looking at a guy like a Sean Davis and Artie Burns or Bud Dupree, who came back into the lineup for the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 11. And I'm looking at what that defense has been able to do since they've returned. And when you look at them over the last 8 to 9 weeks overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers are leading everyone in sacks. They've been really getting after the quarterback. They've limited teams in terms of yards allowed and what have you. And I think when you look at their youth and the kind of youth and speed that they have, even though it isn't the most stout defense, they were god-awful the first half of the season. They've been pretty close to elite the second half of the season. I'm going to look at it from that standpoint and say they could potentially make plays. But the real reason that I'm going the route of the Pittsburgh Steelers is not because of that, because even though they can make plays, you still have the veteran and the greatness of Tom Brady going up against pretty much rookies, and that's going to spell trouble for the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively for the most part, although, again, I think they can make some plays. Where I really side with the Pittsburgh Steelers is offensively because of Le'Veon Bell. I think if Le'Veon Bell can figure out a way to continue to run the football the way that he has been, doesn't even have to come up to that. He doesn't have to rush for 167 yards as he did in the first game. He doesn't have to run for 170 yards as he did last week against Kansas City. But if he could give you 130 to 150 yards, if he can run on the ground effectively, if he can help chew up that clock and keep Tom Brady on the sideline, I think it disrupts the rhythm of the New England Patriots to some degree. I think it buffers the rhythm of the Pittsburgh Steelers significantly. And I think as a result, it puts them in prime position to steal this game. They're the underdogs. There's at least 6-point underdogs. You know, you got the house betting against them because Tom Brady against that secondary. I look at the Steelers as a result playing with house money, pretty much having little to lose. I wouldn't say nothing, but they have significantly less to lose because the expectations are drastically diminished. I think because of that, is why I think that they're going to have an edge, and I'm going to pick the Steelers to upset the New England Patriots to win on the road in Foxborough and get to the Super Bowl.
I was with you until the latest news. When you bring up Le'Veon Bell, and he's the most important player in the game, in my opinion, and we've talked about that a lot this week. But it's not like John Riggins. You know, it's not like he's this big punishing back behind a big physical offensive line that's just going to keep 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, and you're going to keep moving the chains and control the clock that way. His genius at the position is, and it's legend now, his level of patience. He'll literally just stop and analyze the situation and then, and then try to, make a break for it, find the hole and go. He's amazing. But the flu, if that's going around the locker room, if that's affected the offensive line, affects all that kind of stuff. And part of his value is Le'Veon Bell's is wrapped up in the fact that he can line up anywhere, even at the receiver position and catch balls out of the backfield. That's not exactly just a straight running game, a traditional running game where you can control the clock. It was close enough that the Antonio Brown Facebook thing had me wondering. Now the flu stuff comes out. Good luck blocking for your running back if you're compromised.
Before we move on, I don't think the flu is going to have any impact on the game or Facebook Gate. These guys are professional athletes. They're always hurt this time of year. They're going to be so hyped up for this game. They're going to have all the right medicines. Well, the last thing they're going to be thinking about is the flu. And there's been a lot of athletes who have played under the weather, and they play their best games because they're overcompensating.
But not all at the same time.
Let me tell you why I respectfully disagree with you, Molly. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about them. You're not thinking about the competition. Sure, it has no impact on the Pittsburgh Steelers if they're playing against me or Max, but it does have an impact when you're playing against elite dudes on your level. You got to remember, when we make predictions and we engage in prognosticating, we're thinking you at your best, us at our best, mano a mano, what's the deal, what you got? Any kind of slippage whatsoever can potentially impact you. The bigger question is, who specifically is being plagued with the flu. As far as I'm concerned, if it's not the offensive line, if it's not Le'Veon Bell, if it's not Big Ben Roethlisberger, if it's not Antonio Brown or Eli Rogers, I'm good. Ladarius Green having the flu does not concern me that much. Jesse James has done a good job at the tight end spot. I think he can continue to do it. That's how I'm looking at it. It's about who has it. But make no mistake, whoever has it, you're at a disadvantage because you're going up against somebody on your level, which means you need to bring your A game in a game of this magnitude.
Yeah, there's historical precedent for what you're saying, Molly. I mentioned the Ravens. I mean, this is the Patriots been all these
and we see it with NBA players
games.
In the past as well. I know NBA
Full
is a
contact
different deal.
sport.
I get it.
Now, so the Ravens were able to do it, again, without like an all-time defense as they did the first go-round for the Super Bowl, and knock the Patriots out who had quarantined themselves, so they were healthy. The Ravens were sick, and yet the Ravens won the game. It's not as though it can't happen. It can. But when it's already like you're taking the Steelers in an upset, and then there's stuff that could distract them.
I see how
and
it's
they're going
you.
on shorter rest. And now it's not just that one or two guys have to be able to play with the flu. The whole unit has to be able to play compromised. It's just one thing after another against the favored team at home. I don't like them anymore.
No, I get it. I had the Patriots regardless of all of it. But I want to get scores here. So New England favored by 6, as Stephen A. alluded to. Let's get a little refresher of how this matchup went down earlier in the season.
You don't have Ben Roethlisberger. Right now, Andrew Jones is the guy.
You always want to go against the best players. I'm sure they'll still be ready to go.
John throws down the left seam for Gronkowski. Catches straight past the 5. Into the end zone.
I'm going to be real specific about why we came up short, because we realized that our margin for error was minimal.
DeBlunt runs it left. Cuts inside to the end zone. His second touchdown for the Patriots.
It wasn't easy out there. They had to really earn everything. But you get glimpses of what your team's all about.
So obviously, as you just saw, the last time they faced, it was Landry Jones at the helm, not Big Ben Roethlisberger. Stephen A., what do you have for a score in this one?
Well, that's why I had a problem with that highlights recapping their initial game. The fact that Landry Jones was the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in that matchup is, as far as I'm concerned, you could have gave Max and I that time instead of showing those highlights, because Landry Jones being the starting quarterback means the Steelers didn't have a damn quarterback that afternoon. Having said all of that, I am being nice. Having said all of that, here's the deal. I'm going to roll with the Steelers to win this game 30-27. I think somehow, some way, they're going to be down 27-24, 27-23, and the Steelers are going to score TD late in order to win this game. I don't know whether it's going to be the Antonio Brown, the Le'Veon Bell, or the Eli Rogers, but Big Ben is going to connect with somebody when the time is right, with the game on the line, and it's going to propel the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Super Bowl. I know the Patriots are 16-3 at home in Foxborough during the playoffs in the Bill Belichick era, but damn it, they lost 3 times. They can lose a 4th, and I think they do so here. New England Patriots lose this game 30-27, even though I'm emotional about it.
Look, this is, you can say whatever, and I have said things about Brady's future and him compared to Aaron Rodgers. He comes up short. But Tom Brady is still a ridiculously great quarterback playing for the greatest coach in the history of football at any level on an excellent team that almost never lost this year at home. And in fact, Brady looked very ordinary for times during stretches against Houston. Houston has maybe the best defense in the NFL, and Brady still hung 30-plus on him. And after that game, people are like, I don't know. You see some of those throws by Brady, it didn't look so good. They really got to Brady. I put 30-plus on the best defense maybe in the NFL. Given everything that's happened in Pittsburgh, I think the Steelers, they're not going to go out soft. They're going to go out, they're not going to go out without a fight. They'll be fighting till the end, but I think it is the end. 27-20, the win for the Patriots at home.
All right,
I don't see the Steelers being limited to 20 points. They better not be, damn it.
I think there's a slightly more
They better find a way to get in the end zone. They better not be limited to 20 points.
Patriots defense definitely underrated.